Chapter 20. As Stan walks through the fair, he has the weirdest feeling that he's being watched. He looks around, but there are just the usual kids and dogs and families and stallholders. Every now and then somebody waves or calls his name. He waves back. He keeps on walking. He keeps on having the feeling like there's one pair of eyes that picked him out from all the people at the fair. One pair of eyes that's following him. It's not a scary feeling, it's just a bit weird. He looks for the signs of the goldfish supplier. A woman outside the haunted house pulls a pair of fangs from her mouth and says he seems a bit lost. He tells her what he's looking for. Fish, she says. Can't help you there, lad. There's no call for fish in this fiend and phantom trade, unless they're dead, of course. She puts the fangs back in and raises her clawed hands and howls like a wolf and pretends to chase him off. Stan carries on. I'm Tickle Peter, says a man who comes to walk at his side. I'm Stan, says Stan. Do you know where the goldfish supplier is? Make me laugh and I might tell you. Stan stops and looks at him. Peter's wearing leopard skin trunks and a pair of silver braces. On his head is a pointed hat with Tickle Peter and Make Him Laugh and Win £100 written on it. He holds out a bag. Only costs £1. Use one of these feathers or a stick or a leaf or whatever you want. Tickle me, make me laugh and you'll win £100. Then I'll tell you what I know about the fella you're looking for. Tickle Peter goes silent. His face is glum. He waits for Stan to respond. Stan thinks about the £1. Is it right to spend £1 to try to get the information? Or you can tell me a joke if you know any, says Peter. He sighs. I haven't laughed for 20 years. Go on, Stan, make me laugh. Stan puts his hand into his pocket, takes out a £1 coin and gives it to Peter. Why did the monkey fall out of the tree, he says. It's the only joke he knows. He remembers it from those far-off days at school. He remembers laughing and laughing when he heard it. I don't know, says Tickle Peter. His face turns even glummer. He sighs. Why did the monkey fall out of the tree? Because it was dead, cries Stan. Peter sighs again. Is that it? He says. Yes, said Stan. Have you heard it before? Once or twice. Listen, I'm feeling generous. You can tell me another one. Stan looks down. You don't know any more, do you, says Peter. Stan shakes his head. Try a tickle then. Peter holds out the bag again. Stan chooses a long, brightly coloured feather. Peter raises his arm and Stan tickles his armpits. He tickles him behind the knees. He tickles him on the chest and on the legs and on the neck. Peter doesn't move. His face turns even glummer. Enough, he said at last. I thought you might have it in you, Stan, but clearly you haven't. What a disappointment. Stan puts the feather back in the bag. It's my living, explains Peter. I've made a fortune from all the pounds I've taken over the years, but I'd give it all away if only I could laugh. He shrugs and turns to go. Maybe I'll see you around, Stan. You could still tell me about the goldfish supplier, says Stan. Peter pauses. I could. Go on then, please. Oh, I don't know anything about any goldfish supplier. But you said... I said I'd tell you what I know about the bloke you're looking for, and what it is I know is nothing. Tickle Peter watches Stan. See what happens when you don't laugh for 20 years? See what happens when you make your living by tricking and cheating? You turn cruel and bitter, Stan. That's what happens. Goodbye. Stan kicks the grass. He spits. He spins around and there, right behind him, where before there was just an empty space, is a sign stuck to a post that's been stabbed into the earth. It says, Directions to the goldfish supplier. Past the clattering dodgems, beyond the penny falls, first right at the Ferris wheel, then past the groaning wrestling booth, when you must call out in a loud voice, Pin him down, thunderer! Then eat a piece of boar and the wild boar cookhouse and head for the tent which looks like the world. Whistle, it's a long way to Tipperary, and there you will be. Chapter 21. Stan follows the directions. They take him through the heart of the fair. The wrestling booth has a great arched entrance decorated with paintings of ancient wrestlers. The painted wrestlers wear masks and capes, and some pose with their arms folded and others with their arms raised to show off their muscles. They grapple with each other. They fly feet first through the air. There is a great roar from the hidden crowd inside the booth. There are loud gasps of horror and astonishment. There's a sudden silence in the roar, into which Stan calls, "Pin him down, Thunderer!" Then comes a great round of cheering and applause, and a victory has obviously been won. Stan walks on and finds himself at the Wild Boar Cookhouse. A whiskery man who looks like a boar himself leans down from the counter and holds out a piece of meat. "Have a chop, sonny," he grunts. Stan takes it from the man's hairy hand. He chews the delicious meat and licks the delicious juices from his lips. "It's lovely enough," growls the boar man. "It is," says Stan. "What you're after?" says the boar man. "A tent," answers Stan. The boar man grunts. "Have you heard the tale about the man that had the boar?" Stan shakes his head. "He ended up as a boar himself." "Have you heard the tale about the boar that ate the man?" "It ended up as a man itself." "Maybe it would have. Maybe it should have. That would make sense. But no, it was hunted down and shot." "That's a pity," says Stan, thinking about the family of the boar. "It is," says the boar man. "It turned out very tasty." He points to the meat in Stan's hand. "As you can testify yourself. Now here's another. Have you heard this tale of the tent that looked like the world?" Stan shakes his head. "It ended up looking naught like a tent." Stan swallows the last of the meat. He licks his fingers. "What does that mean?" he says. "It means you should be whistling by now." Stan starts whistling. It's a long way to Tipperary, and a man appears from among the trees and beckons Stan towards him. "Are you the goldfish supplier?" asks Stan. "Do I look like the goldfish supplier?" asks the man. "I don't know," says Stan. "Then what do I look like?" "I don't know, like a man." "Like a man? That's good. You can stop whistling that horrible tune now. Come along." And the man reaches towards a tree and draws it towards him. And Stan realises that what looks like tree is in fact the canvas walls of a tent with images of trees and earth and sky on them. "I thought it was trees," Stan gasps. Behind him the boar man snuffles and grunts. "Of course you did," said the man at his side. "You thought it was trees. You thought it was the world, but it is not. It is just a tent. Now hurry up and get inside. My name is Mr. Smith, by the way." "I'm Stan," says Stan. "Come along," said Mr. Smith.
Chapter 22. The inside of the tent is cavernous. There are true trees growing there, and Stan touches them. And yes, they're real. The light is dim, like dawn. Mr. Smith walks briskly, hurrying Stan forward. They pass huge, empty cages, whose steel bars are all rusted. "Elephants," says Mr. Smith, when he sees Stan looking. "Elephants?" says Stan. There used to be elephants in the cages, and lions and tigers and zebras and bears, but that was in the old days, when we supplied everything. It's all come to an end except for goldfish and a few speciality items. Hurry along, please, and be careful where you step. There are rumours that a pair of scorpions have escaped." Stan stares down in horror at the ground beneath his feet. "Scorpions!" he gasps. "Why do you have scorpions?" "For the Scorpion Act, of course. And if you hear flapping, be sure to duck. It'll be the eagle. He likes to land on heads, and his claws are very long and very, very sharp." Stan looks at the earth. He looks at the sky. He holds his hands against his skull, and his heart thunders and thumps. "Goodness gracious," says Mr. Smith. "I can see that you are not used to this. What on earth are you doing here?" Stan gasps again. He goggles at the man. What is he doing here? How on earth did he end up like this? He wants to yell, "I'm just an ordinary boy. I don't want to be in a tent that looks like the world, searching for half a shoal of goldfish. I don't want to be frightened of scorpions and eagles. I want to go right back to the start, when I had an ordinary life with an ordinary family in an ordinary home, and I was ordinary little Stanley Potts. The yelling inside his head feels so loud that Stan is certain Mr. Smith must hear it. "Well?" says Mr. Smith. Stan sighs. "Wilfred Dostoevsky sent me here," he whispers. Mr. Smith nods. "Ah, that makes sense," he says. "Now, come along." "Ah, look out! Duck!" Stan flings himself to the ground and wraps his arms around his head. Nothing happens. He hears laughter. He looks up. "My little joke," says Mr. Smith. "Works every time. Now get up. The goldfish supply is ready for you." And he walks away. Chapter 23. The goldfish supplier is sitting at a desk in front of an assortment of plastic ponds. A fishing net is slung over his shoulder. He grins and beckons Stan towards him. "You found me! Well done! That's half the battle over. I'm Seabrooke. What's your name and what's your poison?" "Poison?" says Stan. "Forgive me, you're new, aren't you? Seabrooke's way is we have a drink and a chinwag, then we get down to business. I can do you water, fizzy water, or black pop." Stan suddenly realised that he's very thirsty. "What's in the black pop?" he asks. Seabrooke taps his nose and winks. "Something black," he says. "Something secret, something delicious." He reaches into a drawer in the desk and takes out a squat glass bottle filled with black stuff and hands it to Stan. "Some folks say it makes them do sums better," says Seabrooke. "Some folks say it makes them run better." He twists his nose. "Some folk even say it helps them to drink black pop better." "No, I don't quite know what they mean by that either. What did you say your name was?" "It's Stan," says Stan. He takes a swig of the black pop. Seabrooke's right. It is delicious. "Now, let's have the chinwag," says Seabrooke. "It's a lovely day, isn't it, Stan?" "It is," says Stan. "Though there was a bit of a chill last Wednesday," adds Seabrooke. "Was there?" says Stan. "There was, but not like the cold snap back in March. And kids today, eh? I mean, it's serious, isn't it? Every time you turn on the telly, there's another one. The world's going to rack and ruin, and the economy, I mean, where is it all going to end?" Stan swigs the black pop. A strange taste, like blackberries and sardines at the same time. "I don't know," he admits. "Me neither, Stan. I mean, I was saying to Mackintosh just last night, you know, he's the one who married that lass from Pembroke, the one with a bit of a limp after she fell off her bike when she was 3. I was saying to him, what's to become of us? Where's it going to end?" He didn't have a clue, of course. Not surprising when you think what he's been through with that poor dog of his. But there is no answer, is there? You listen to them talk, and they talk like they know what they're talking about and what they're going to do about it all, and you know they haven't got a clue. It's like they talk for the sake of talking. Do you know what I mean? And the litter, Stan. It's not like in our day, is it? I blame the teachers. Rack and ruin. And it's a long way to Tipperary, that's what folk fail to understand. You've got to look on the bright side, haven't you? There's a light at the end of the... But listen, it's been really lovely talking to you, Stan, but I'm afraid I haven't got all day. And anyway, what's it all got to do with the price of fish? I don't know, Mr. Seabrooke. Exactly. Now, are you after A, B, C or D? He sees Stan's blank expression. Do you want golden greats, top notches, not too bad, or little runts? He sees Stan's continued blank expression. Tell you what, come and look at the ponds and I'll explain. Seabrooke leads Stan round the desk to the ponds. He explains that the golden greats in Pond A are best of all and most expensive of all, and the little runts in Pond E are scrawniest and cheapest. Stan looks down. They are all beautiful to his eyes, the gorgeously curving golden greats, the twitchy little runts, and all the others in between. They're lovely, says Stan, each and every one of them. As if they hear, several fish rise to the surface and turn their eyes and mouths to Stan. I'm impressed, says Seabrooke. You've got the touch. I could do you a mixture if you like. How many are you after? Half a shoal. And who are they for? Wilfred Dostoevsky. Aha, says Seabrooke. Dostoevsky, a long-time customer of mine. He goes back to the desk and opens a file. As I thought, he said. Wilfred Dostoevsky's custom is to take the little runts. Stan nods. He's already guessed that. The 13 fish he saved on his birthday were obviously from Pondee. But, says Seabrooke, I've heard he's a changed man these days. A changed man? News travels fast in the fair, Stan. The story is he's come across some kid who's had an influence on him. He closes the file and peers at Stan. Is he a changed man, Stan? I don't know. I didn't know him before. Before he came across you, you mean? I don't know, says Stan. Seabrooke smiles. He winks. It's a pleasure and an honour to have you here, Stan, he says. Tell you what, I'll do you a half-mixed shoal, okay? Okay, says Stan. Seabrooke takes his net, dips it into all 4 ponds, lifts out fish from each, and tips them gently into a plastic carrier filled with clear water. The fish swarm together, becoming accustomed to their new space. Then, as Stan and Seabrooke watch, they separate again into A's, B's, C's and D's. Funny how that always happens, said Seabrooke. He grins. Look at those golden grates. Look at how splendid they are in there. Don't you think they're splendid, Stan? Yes, says Stan. But which are truly your favourite, Stan? Stan gazes into the water. The little runts, he says after a moment. Seabrooke grins again. Thought so. Maybe because you came from the same pond, eh, Stan? Seabrooke smiles. Stan digs into his pocket and takes out some money. How much are they? He asks. Seabrooke takes a few coins from his hand. That'll do, he says. Now, turn around and I'll get this on your back. He lifts the plastic water carrier, which has straps hanging from it. He puts the straps over Stan's shoulders. The carrier is heavy, but it settles easily onto Stan's back. Stan feels it hanging there, so close. He thinks he can feel the vibrations of the fish as they swim. Feels okay? Asks Seabrooke. Stan nods. Off you go then, Stan. He touches Stan's shoulder. You know what? The little troubled runts are often the ones that turn out to be best of all. Stan says goodbye. He walks away, past the empty rusting cages. He's forgotten about the scorpions and the eagle. He feels the vibration of swimming fish at his back. The water carrier glitters and glows.